Hey everybody, Man of Stephen here, finally bringing you my review of James Gunn's Superman. So straight into spoilers, I'm going to start off with the things I dislike because I'd rather start negative and end positive. So the first thing I want to mention in dislikes is the needle drops. I could have done without them personally. 5 years time during the Mr. Terrific scene kind of took me out of a great action scene. I've seen it 3 times now, so it's got less and less annoying as it's gone on. But I still would have preferred it without it. I think a really good, impactful score there, maybe something synthy, would have really suited the action scene that was going on. I mean, don't get me wrong, Lois's expression as it's all happening in shock is brilliant, but I just would have done without that song. And I kind of got the process of it because when it's on the radio, when she's trapped in the bubble, the sound is just trapped inside the bubble with her. So I kind of got it from that perspective, but personally would have preferred not to. And then there's Punk Rocker. Now, Punk Rocker is not something I would listen to on. I would not put on Alexa, for example, or anything. But I have grown to like that song, and it really fits the theme of the film. But in the film, towards, it's not necessarily the end scene. It's more when it goes into the credits. I think Punk Rocker should have faded off after Clark sees all the pictures of his parents, the videos and stuff. And when it went into the S symbol and started giving you all the Superman 78 styled, text, that he should have changed the score. And I think that's probably where they should have really introduced their bombastic version of the Superman theme, because they do use John Williams, but it's used very differently, which I'm glad at, because I did not want them to use John Williams like verbatim, because I think that's one of the things that doesn't work when they used it in the Henry Cavill version, for example. It's not his theme, so it doesn't fit him. This version of the Superman theme with the guitar, etc., fits this Superman. So I would have preferred that. The only other nitpicks I've got is I would have liked a few more. Maybe you could have done 5 extra minutes. Give me a couple more scenes with the Daily Planet stuff. Like, I don't think Ron Troop had a single line, and that really bothered me. You got enough. I think you got enough Steve Lombard. He was funny. Would have liked a little bit more Cat Grant. You got loads of Jimmy. Didn't hardly get any Perry White as well. Would have liked more Perry White. And the big one, Clark Kent, the reporter Clark Kent. You do get to see every side of Superman in this film. You get to see him as Superman, Clark with Lois, Clark on the farm, and Clark at the Daily Planet. But I'm pretty sure you only get one scene at the Daily Planet. And at the end of the film, after they've saved the day, the Daily Planet stuff just don't even mention Clark. And it's like, would you not be wondering where he is? And that scene where Superman gives Lois the interview, which I do like, and they obviously go kiss. I kind of think that might have worked better if it was Clark. So you'd have had Clark come back and they're like, oh, Kent, where the hell have you been? And he's like, I've got the exclusive, blah, blah, blah. And then he says something to Lois about an interview with Superman, and they wander off. I think that might have worked a little bit better. As well, given Perry has seen Superman and Lois go off together, if they ever want to do Clark and Lois together, it's going to not work, is it? Because they're going to be like, well, once you've seen Superman, or is he going to start putting 2 and 2 together? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So other than that, there was another scene in the film where Superman goes to Lois. Sorry, I'll call him Clark and Superman, and he doesn't mean he was Clark Kent in that scene or Superman in that scene. He goes to see Lois after he threatens Lex because he wants his dog back, and she's kind of shocked he's got a dog, but it's a really heartfelt scene. And he says a great line about Krypto. She says, oh, you've got a dog, and he goes, yeah, not a very good one. But he's out there and he's scared and alone because he's going to hand himself over to the authorities. She doesn't think he should do it, but he does, and he tells her he loves her, which obviously at that point she's not sure how she feels, which is kind of a process throughout the film. But the problem with that scene is there's a magical imp in the background fighting the Justice Gang. Now, while it was kind of funny at first, it just goes on, and I know some people actually do like this scene, but for me, it just took me out of it a little bit, and that scene would have been a lot better. It'd have been less James Gunn. And don't get me wrong, I like James Gunn. This is not a shot at James Gunn. I think some of those Gunnisms he needs to get rid of, because you go back to the Mr. Terrific scene, that's the Harley scene in the Suicide Squad for me. So I'm kind of like, well, you've kind of done this before. You need to kind of show you can change. Don't get me wrong, this is unlike any James Gunn film ever, but it's still got those Gunnisms in it. And there's moments of humour. There's quite a bit of swearing in it, which don't really bother me that much, but at the same time, it does a little bit, because I'm like, well, I've got 2 little kids with me here and they're hearing all these swear words. Now, everyone swears. I swear. You probably swear. but I think in some things maybe it's just not right. And it's like when Superman says Super S. I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to ruin the video. I just thought it was a bit weird. I was like, oh, I'm not used to Superman saying that. But then he did use the W word, which is a British swear word in Superman versus the Elite, so what do I know? But other than that, there's not really anything else that I can think of. That maybe something will crop up later in the review that I'll track back to, but no, nothing else for me. I don't get the pacing issue argument at all. I don't think there is a pacing issue personally, but there is those little moments I would have liked to have characters. That's not a pacing thing for me, that's a character thing. So like Hawkgirl, Clark Kent, the reporter Clark Kent, and Ron Troop in the Daily Planet, and Perry White. Give me those four. Give me like just even an extra couple of minutes, I think would help this film. So that's all my dislikes. Now on to the things I liked, and maybe I should say loved, although I can't say I loved everything. Liked covers a broader horizon of love. So straight away, and I talked about this in my original review, which was only a quick home from the theatre review, I thought the casting in this film was absolutely on point. I thought David Corenswet was fantastic as all versions of Clark and Superman. He just is Superman to me. You know, they couldn't have cast anyone better for this film. Now, that's not a slight on any of the previous. I love Henry Cavill. I've actually really got a big soft spot for Henry Cavill. Christopher Reeve, Tom Welling, George Reeves. I'm trying to name them all here, but I'm not going to. Tim Daly's probably my favourite Superman animated, and all of them. I don't think any of them have been bad ever. I think they all suit the worlds they're in. But in this world, this James Gunn's DCU, I think he is the perfect cast of Superman. Moving on to Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, she was fantastic as well. I don't think they could have cast anyone better for that role. And I really like the way she challenges Clark, like in the interview scene, which I know some people have had issues with. I like that she challenges him, and he's right. He can't just go to a war and just stop it. There's all these diplomatic reasons for that, and even though Superman says he's representing himself and not America, the world outside wouldn't see that. They would see him as representing America. So she was right to do that. She was fantastic. I love that she saved Clark as well. She went, you know, when he gets captured and taken to the pocket dimension, she's the one who goes to save him, and she has some great scenes with the Justice Gang and Mr. Terrific. So I like that she did that, and we didn't. Don't get me wrong, I want to see Superman save Lois at some point in this universe, but I was kind of glad that they did it that way. It was nice to see for a change. But other than that, Jimmy Olsen as a ladies' man was kind of a choice, but apparently it was pretty big in the comics, maybe in the 70s or 60s. I can't remember exactly what the reference point is for that, but that was cool. You know, Jimmy was great in this film. You know, probably the best Jimmy Olsen. And I was a Sam Huntington guy before this, so I think I probably moved on to I've forgotten the actor's name, but yeah. Justice Gang, loved them all. Again, would have liked more Hawkgirl, but what we got was very cool. That screech thing she did was kind of freaky at the same time. Mr. Terrific, fantastic. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, brilliant, just so funny. And Metamorpho, which some of the scenes of him, like you see him like in one point he's just a floating head with flames coming out, and that was genius. I'm going to actually use this point to move on to one of my favourite scenes, the pocket dimension scene. Now, what I absolutely loved in that scene was the use of kryptonite. So there's a line earlier in the film which absolutely cracked me up, where Lex meets up with like they're not the world leaders, but they're kind of like the authority figures in the Pentagon. And somebody says, "Oh, what's that kryptonite stuff called?" And he goes, "It's called kryptonite." Now, I was one of the only ones that laughed in the cinema, but I thought that was such a great line because Lex is so annoyed. He's just like, "Yeah, he's called kryptonite, dumbass." Obviously, he doesn't say dumbass. So you had the use of kryptonite in this was so good. Best use of kryptonite I've ever seen in a film. Like, it made his skin boil. He started at one point with not being able to breathe properly, and all his skin went all messed up, which there was a funny line from Metamorpho about why do you still look so messed up, and Metamorpho's kind of messed up looking himself, which was hilarious. But yeah, that use of kryptonite was just so good. And then keeping in the pocket dimension scenarios, there's a scene with a character called, I think it's called Malik, but I think Superman calls him Mali, and he was someone that he once gave Superman like some food. I can't remember what he said he sold food wise. And Superman remembered him, and he actually goes to help Superman at the beginning when he gets knocked down into the ground by the hammer. And you had this great moment, an awful moment, but great, where Lex Luthor just shows what an evil villain he is, and he basically does Russian roulette with Mali, asking Superman questions, and Superman's like, you know, he doesn't know anything, and he actually shot him and killed him. And now my eldest son, he had to cover his eyes because we saw it twice the second time because that upset him. But I liked it because it's like, how evil is this Lex? And then the way he gets under Superman's skin, like with when they bust through that one of my favorite scenes where Superman busts through into Lex's car, and he's like, "Where's the dog? You took the dog." And Lex is playing with him. He's like, "Do you want a coffee?" and all this and stuff. And then Lex goes to drink his coffee, and he's like, "Ugly dog in a cape." And he goes, "What did you say?" And he's like, he does it to wind him up. And I'm like, this Lex Superman dynamic is the best I've ever seen on screen. You know, I'm not going to count Smallville in that, which I think is probably my favourite still. I don't know. They're probably tied, actually. But the way the difference with this is like, in Smallville, they started off as friends and slowly developed a hatred of one another. In this film, Lex just hates Superman for being Superman. He cannot stand the fact that he's Superman. And that was just, so good. Krypto the Super Dog, just going back because obviously got mentioned in the last scene. Love Krypto, he was great. You know, I think I can see why some people might be annoyed with him because it's a bit over the top. Like, there's a scene where Superman saves him in the pocket dimension and he jumps all over him again. But what you've got to kind of take into account is this Krypto he's like he's not a bad dog. He's not a well-trained dog. And you find out later that he's Supergirl's dog, spoiler again. Because she comes to pick him up and there's no boundaries. He's like bashing her on the floor because she's got superpower. She's just laughing. It doesn't bother her. So I am intrigued to know why he's a dog. If he's from Krypton, do they have dogs as well? And it's just a coincidence they've got dogs. But anyway, that's kind of one of those. They'll probably never explain it. Like I love the Fortress robots and that. They're not going to explain that either. So yeah, the Kents. Now, a lot of people had issues with the Kents because I've heard some people say they were country bumpkin simpletons, which I think is a bit of an awful way to phrase it. But I kind of get what they mean by the way they talk. But they just seem like down-to-earth people. And I've actually heard people from that area say that's what people sound like in that area. So it doesn't really explain why Clark's not got the same accent. But, you know, we'll forget about that. But no, I like the Kents. They're not my favourite Kents. No, Smallville Kents will always be up there. We'll say Kevin Costner and Diane Lane and... You know, the Kents and Lois and Clark, they'll probably be my favourites forever. But I liked him enough. And there's a great scene with Clark and his dad. And his dad gets, I think his mum always calls him Mush. And he's always getting all emotional about Clark because he cares so much about him. So, but no, I liked that well enough. But moving on to another positive was the score. I think this is one of the best scores for any Superman film. I've listened to it like crazy, just... constantly. I listened to it before the film even came out because I got it like, I think it was 2 days before it came out, and I started listening to it and I just love this music. There's stuff in it that reminds me, obviously there's Williams influence, there's synthy stuff which I love. I'm a sucker for synth. I mean, I love John Carpenter, so, but even like there's music that reminds me of Snyder's films, you know, like there's like a Zod theme in Man of Steel, I forget what it's called now, and there's one that sounds kind of similar to that. And that's really cool. And even the Lex Luthor theme kind of sounds a bit like he's from the Batman, you know, the Matt Reeves version. I can't remember the guy who did the score for that. Is it Gianchino or something? I forget the name. There's music that even sounds like that, so that's really cool. But yeah, the score's just amazing. Now I'm blown away by it. I've seen some people really play it down and say they don't think it's that great of a score, and I can't relate. I'm just like, I think the score's fantastic. Is it my favourite Superman score ever? I think I'd still give that to Superman 78. It's probably like third at the minute behind Man of Steel because I love the score for that movie as well. But even so, that's no shame. I think all the Superman films have good scores. Even 3, which is probably the worst of the originals because it's just a bit cut and paste. But yeah, Superman 4 has always got a great score. But anyway, I'm rambling on, so move on. The way Superman got his butt kicked in this bothered some people. It didn't bother me. I'm a huge Superman the Animated Series fan, and that's a very depowered version of Superman. And I think it's actually the best way to portray Superman is to give him these obstacles that he has to overcome, and he can't just win the day. And he obviously gets his butt kicked by the Hammer of Baravia, who we'll later find out is Ultraman, which actually you find out straight away it's Ultraman. But Ultraman's reveal turns out to be a clone of Clark Kent, Superman. So that's really interesting. And I've also got a bit of a theory that he wears a mask constantly, not just to hide who he is from the public, but I think Lex doesn't want to look at that face as well. Like, but at the same time, Lex is very proud of his creations. Like, there's a scene where I was on about the Pentagon scene. He's showing those people a video of Ultraman and the engineer, and I like the engineer in this as well, by the way. Just to go back to castings. She was pretty badass, to be fair. Yeah, so there's a scene where Lex is like showing him and he's really proud. And you can see how proud he is. And there's like a character called Mr. Handsome in the pocket dimension. It looks like Slenderman. And he's so proud of him, actually. We've seen later in stills. He's actually got a picture of him on his desk, which I think is hilarious. But he treats those better than he treats like the people who are, quote, his friends. Like the way he treats Eve in this is awful. You know, and she's actually having a bit of a side thing with Jimmy, which was hilarious. I don't know why. She's got mutant toes, but I'm sorry, Jimmy. There's no way you turn down Eve. There's just no way. But yeah, going back anyway. So Ultraman, it gets revealed as his clone, and some people were disappointed with it. I wasn't, because I kind of figured that out anyway. Because even in the trailer when the fortress opened for Lex, I thought, well, that's got to be because he's Ultraman's the clone. And I know some people wanted it to be Henry Cavill, but that would have made no sense. Like, and I don't want to see Henry Cavill brought back that way. If we see Henry Cavill back in his universe, I want him to come back as Superman and do a Spider-Man No Way Home style thing. In fact, I'm going to do a video on a pitch for that idea at some point. I've got this really cool, it involves Brainiac with a multiverse of Superman. But yeah, anyway, going back, sorry, the Ultraman, yeah, so he was kind of cool, but he doesn't, when he's defeated, he gets knocked into the a black hole. A lot of people are like, oh, Superman killed him. I think he's going to come back as Bizarro. I'm absolutely convinced of it. Whether he goes through the portal, the black hole, sorry, and he lands in a world of cubes, because there was a lot of cubes in the pocket dimension, which reminded me of Bizarro World. So whether he goes there and becomes Bizarro there, maybe his skin starts to twist and stuff, and so he was pointing out how he's only got the audio from because Lex is talking to him through this audio thing on his chest. Maybe all he can hear is that. Maybe it's broken. It's like saying stuff backwards, and that's the reason he speaks backwards or something. So, I mean, my favorite version of Bizarro was actually in the John Byrne Man of Steel comics, where he didn't really speak. He was a bit of a Frankenstein's monster. I actually think it'd be cool if he just came back like that. I honestly, I do think he's going to come back anyways, Bizarro. But anyway, I'm rambling again now. So the way Superman beat the Ultraman was Ultraman's kind of kicking his butt because Lex has watched Superman for years. He knows every single move Superman's about to make. In fact, there's a great scene where he's just saying, 1A, 1A, and Ultraman's punching him in the face. It's so cool, man. And Superman laughs, and he says brain beats brawn, which was a line Lex said to him earlier. And then Krypto comes in. And some people are, oh, Krypto rescued him. He uses Krypto in a way to his advantage. He's using your brain. And I like a smart Superman, so that was really cool. And then there's the scene after that where Superman rises up from like the pocket universe, and the music swells, and you'll know what scene I'm on about if you've seen it. That is the moment I was like, that is Superman. That was such a cool moment. And then not long after that, the Lex, like, they're called Raptors, I think. They come and they go, oh, they're gonna kill him, and he's like, good luck with that. And he just heat visions all of them out the sky and knocks them all on the butts. That was so good. I'm trying to think what else. I don't want to ramble on too long because I've been going on for a little while now. But yeah, there's just so many cool scenes in it, and it's such a fast-paced movie. There's not time to breathe. I will say, actually, I should have probably said this in my dislikes. I thought their credit scenes were pointless. They should not. If that's what you're going to do, James Gunn, just don't do credit scenes. You could do them in Peacemaker because a gag at the end's funny. A gag at the end of a film when you've been sat through the credits for 10 minutes is not funny. So that's a little side ramble. But yeah, I mean, there's probably stuff I haven't covered, but I'm going to do little videos on things over the time, little shorts that I can think of, like I did the Hammer of Bravia one. So I will probably get into more around that time. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover really in my spoiler review. I mean, I didn't go over the whole movie because I don't want to do it bit by bit, but yeah, so I'll do my final thoughts and rating. So final thoughts are, is this the best Superman movie ever? No. But is it one of the best? Yes. Now, what I love about this movie is you've got Superman 1978, you've got Man of Steel, and you've got Superman, James Gunn Superman. They're all different. You can even include Superman Returns in that if you want. And I do like that movie. I don't love it, but I like it. They're all different. And I think that's the strength of these movies. I love every single version of Superman. Now, you're not going to see me rag on one to big up another. There'll be things I point out. that I don't like. I'm going to do a series, Nitpicks of Steel. That's coming soon. I will go into little things I don't like in each movie. No movie is perfect apart from Back to the Future, which that's my favourite film of all time. There's going to be films where things might bother you, but they don't bother you as much because you don't care. The reason things bother me in films like this is because I care and I love these characters. Now, again, my nitpicks with this film are minor. But one thing I do love about it, and this is going to sound like a weird positive, it's not the best Superman movie there could be. There's still places to go, and I like that because this is like when I first came out of X-Men in 2000. It was a very solid introduction, and I think this is a very solid introduction of this Superman and the DCU. So my rating for this is 4.25 out of 5. And I think if you haven't seen it, which you should have done by now, it's been out for weeks, but if you haven't, go see it, and also see it in Dolby because it is amazing in Dolby. So until next time, that was my spoiler review. I hope it was okay. This is my first one I've ever done on the channel, so there'll be more to come. Until then, keep being super.